Hello and welcome back to The Big Stage, brought to you by Betting Expert, where in today's show we're going to look back at the semi-finals of Euro 2020, as well as provide you with our best bets for the final, which it gives me great pleasure to say features England. But first up, I want to bring in my guests. Once again, former England international Wayne Bridge and also broadcaster Rory Jennings. Wayne, to start with you, I mean, how is it to finally make plans for final day?
Oh, mate, buzzing. Wasn't even worried about the plans, just happy to get the win. It was one of them games you're sat on the edge of the seat, and you know there was a time in that game you're thinking, oh my God, not getting knocked out in the semis. But what a night. I'm still recovering from it, to be honest.
I think half the country will be as well. And also, Rory, for you, I mean, how was it just watching England do so well, getting to the final?
It was magnificent, wasn't it? It really was. It was a historic night. I think that in my lifetime, England have been to 4 semi-finals and haven't progressed until now. So it felt like a defining moment in the history of English football. And I think that what we saw last night will actually go down in history. Harry Kane has etched his name into football folklore. We know that, there's certain moments over the years. They think it's all over. It is now. Gaza, when he put it over Hendry and past Gorham. Last night is one of those moments. England winning a semi-final at Wembley. It's just glorious.
I've also got to ask you one maybe tough question for you, Rory. Which song is going to be on repeat in your house? Would it be Wheel of Motion or Three Lions?
I've been a loyal subscriber to the World in Motion. New Order, a brilliant band. I've always gone for that one. But lately, this Baddiel and Skinner's version is getting to me. And I think Three Lions has just superseded it. I would have never predicted that. In a year of shocks, that shocked me.
Maybe that could have been the bold prediction to start with. Anyway, let's get into it, lads, with our edition of The Big Stage. We're going to review the semi-finals, starting off with England-Denmark. We saw lots of big talk from, Kasper Schmeichel before the game. But Wayne, what was your assessment of the England-Denmark game? How do you think England did? Are we now the worthy favourites to lift the trophy?
Do you know what? We've got a little bit of luck. And you do need that if you're going to win a tournament. And we're through. Who cares about that at the end of the day? I think we played... There was a time where you think, no, it's not going to be our day. But the lad's done so well. And Gareth as well. You got to take your hat off to him. Like just everything he's done for that team, everything, the spirit, the fight they showed. I thought Carl Walker was immense last night. I thought he's been great anyway, but he just stood out for me massively. Schmeichel was amazing, by the way, for them. It was just we all would have loved the 4-0. But the way the night went, it was just a brilliant night. You're on your edge of your seat the whole game and just loved it.
And for you, Rory, as well, obviously England went 1-0 down to that amazing free kick. But what did you make of that goal from Damsgaard?
I think what we need to break it down into 2 things here, in my opinion. I think firstly, acknowledge the brilliance in the strike, the liberty by Damsgaard to shoot from that distance. We have to acknowledge quite how... well executed it was and the craft behind it, and all of the above is true. Damsgaard, nothing but love and props for the way that ball and scored the goal. But I'm not being disrespectful here, right? Jordan Pickford has to save that. I'm slightly concerned because I don't want to slate anybody, but he has to save that.
It's a difficult one. Like I hear Alan Shearer talking about it last night, and it was like he didn't want to give anyone didn't want to dig anyone out, did he really? But you've got to give respect, like you said. It's a great strike. It was quick, but it's not far off the middle of the goal. So you'd expect him to save it.
Now, one thing,
but it was a great strike. It was a great strike. Great strike.
One thing, Wayne, I want to ask you about that goal as well. I mean, looking back at the picture, one part of that goal that stood out for me was Calvin Phillips lying down. That seems to have come into football. For you as a former player, I mean, what would you make of being told to go and lie down behind a wall?
It happens. Do you know what I mean? They're sneaky players. They know walls are jumping, and once it's happened once or twice, and they're going to knock it under the wall. You've got to do it. It's one of them things. And to be honest, I'd probably rather be laying down. I'd rather be lying down. Do you know why? Because if you're stood up in the wall and they're going to smash it, it's going to hurt. If you're laying down, they're not going to have too much pace in it. I think it's all right. So I'd rather be on the rather be on the floor than in the wall.
Do you know what? As it becomes more and more fashionable, though, the reason, like, I understand the value of it, like the draft excluder, don't they? Like the draft excluder underneath. I understand the value of it, but you may not know this. I'm really sure, and I reckon that in any football team, if any team I played for decided to have a draft excluder, they're definitely going to say to me, "Lie down, mate, because you can't be in the wall anyway." And I don't particularly want to be there. I don't fancy that role. So I'm desperately hoping that it goes out of fashion as quickly as possible.
It's so you lay down, you know, it's going to hit you because they're not going to go underneath. Like it's.
You put them off by being there. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, you put them off. They're not going to do it. Rather than taking one in the mush.
Yeah.
Obviously, after that free kick went in, England came back to win. I mean, Rory, how much confidence do you think England will take into the final, given the fact they won from behind?
Well, I think it's twofold, because I think it's worked out perfectly for England. Right. Firstly, what we've learnt about this England team is that there is a resilience, and we always thought there was, but we didn't know there was because they'd never been put to the test. But the magnificent thing from last night is we've had the opportunity to test the resilience without, if we're slightly clever, if we play gymnastics a little bit with the facts, England still haven't conceded a goal from open play. So that record and the confidence that comes from not conceding from open play is still there. Like, there's not much you can do when a geezer pings in one like that. Keeper, arguably, but generally speaking, it was just a magnificent strike. But we now know that if the worst happens and we go a goal down to Italy, there is a resilience, a character, and a determination in this side. We don't need to panic. We keep doing what we're doing. We got a goal back at a crucial time. You know, I didn't want them to get in 1-0 up. It would have perhaps been a different story had that happened. But I think that this team, Southgate, Steve Holland, I think they will have learnt a lot from the fact that they went a goal down, nobody panicked, they stuck to the job, and they got the job done.
Yeah, Wayne, you touched there on Kyle Walker being a really good performer, but which other player stood out for you in that England team?
Which player stood out for me?
Yeah.
Mate, there's so many, isn't there, really? Sterling for me, 100%. He's just a threat every time he gets the ball. And, you know, I watched it in the pub, and he gets slated sometimes if he doesn't beat a player or something doesn't happen. But he's always trying to make someone happen, and defenders are scared of him. He's so dangerous. I think he's massively important against Italy because, you know, everyone knows they like to play deep, and I think you've got to get round them. For me, he's just been brilliant. But, you know, I could name 4 or 5 others. You look at Shaw's, he's just got better and better. There is a few, but Sterling for me, I love him, and especially if he's been so much flack at the end of the season, and, you know, should he be starting? You know, I just think it's brilliant the way he's been playing, and he's took everything on the chin, and he just keeps producing every game at the moment.
Well, Sterling is now favourite to be player of the tournament, actually. So, yeah, if you wanted to get a bet on that, then that's a pretty good one. For you, Rory, looking at the tactics of Southgate, I think we've kind of touched on it already, but do you think he got it spot on, especially after going a goal down?
Yes, I do. I think he was brave. I think he has been brave throughout this tournament, actually. And it's not necessarily a characteristic that you associate with Gareth Southgate. But if you think about the easiest thing for Gareth Southgate to do from day dot would have been to play Jack Grealish, because that's what the public wanted. Had it not worked, he could have gone, well, hey, you know, that's what the media and the public wanted. So kind of on you. It was a very brave decision. Nobody thought playing Kieran Trippier left back was the way to go. He did it. It worked. And throughout this tournament, he's demonstrated a quality that is bravery that I didn't know he possessed. And I thought he did it last night. You know, subbing Jack Grealish. I thought that was a really. At first, I did think that was a correct move, just to be sure. But it's a dangerous one, isn't it? Like I remember when Jose Mourinho did it to Joe Cole. He subbed the sub, and I think it had quite a detrimental effect. I don't think it was like overly seen in a positive light. But subbing Jack Grealish, I thought it was amazing. I've seen a quote from Jack Grealish regarding that. Apparently, Gareth Southgate went over to him and tried to explain why I've subbed you, why I've subbed the sub. And Jack Grealish just dismissed the conversation. He's like, look, Gaffer, I don't need to hear this. England are in a final, and that's all that matters. And I thought, wow, Gareth Southgate is brilliant from Grealish. It shows you an insight into his character. But it also shows you what Gareth Southgate has built, that the players are so on board with this project that they don't mind being a sacrificial lamb. It was great.
And Wayne, do you see that as well? Like the difference in this squad, perhaps, to when you played? I mean, is it less about individuals and more about the collective? Is that what you're seeing?
Look, they do seem very together. You know what Grealish, said to Gavin. He dismisses the conversation. I think anyone would do that. To be honest, I think anyone should. I mean, you look at the grand scheme of things. But yeah, they don't. We've always talked when I was round of England, the cliques of and the rivalry there was. It doesn't seem cliquey, and it seems like a lot of these players, they're playing for different teams, but they're actually quite good friends outside of that, which probably helps. You look at Mount and Rice. That we all know they're really good friends. They play for different teams. They all just seem like they get on so well, and they're friends outside of their club football, which will help massively.
And touching back onto the contentious penalty decision, I think Rory said last week or the last show that he wanted to see more diving, more shithousery from England. I mean, did they deliver with that with Sterling?
That's definitely yes, I did say that, but wow, that's what a clip can do, isn't it? Rory loves diving. But
didn't the Italians give us stick as well? Haven't we been given a bit of stick from the Italians? Oh, come on. Are they having a laugh?
Do you know what, though? Wayne, this will be one for you. Obviously, you've played the game at the top tier. I didn't think it was a dive. I thought it was a foul. If you're moving with the ball at that pace, any knock, and there were 2 knocks. I think it was Mailer who wins the ball perfectly first time, but as he has another go, it's just after Sterling and the other defender's hips clash. And I think that is enough to make you fall over when you're moving at those sorts of. I've never moved at that sort of pace, but if you could, I can see why you fall over.
Yeah, I'd have to keep rewatching it, but first thing is, it's a soft one. He hasn't been touched, but if you've touched him, It's a penalty these days. So, do you know what I mean? It is. It's a difficult one to call. Fair play to the referee, because if he's touched him, it's a penalty. But I can understand the frustration. If it was on the other end, I think we would be very frustrated with it.
That's it. I mean, you touched on it as well. You need that little bit of luck in tournament football as well, and it seems like to have gone England's way. Another thing they missed as
you
well.
You made your own luck as well.
Yeah, exactly. But another thing they missed was the 2 balls on the pitch as well. At one time, that seems to have been brushed over. Not many people.
I agree with that one, Joe. Joe, I do agree with that one. I've seen various examples throughout the tournament where the play stops, regardless of what's going on. The play stops when there is a second ball on the pitch. And do you know what? I suppose last time we spoke, I was acknowledging the dark arts, and I thought that our ball boys and girls were brilliant last night. They seem to get it back when necessary. They seem to get a second ball on the pitch where necessary. They seem to really do their bit for the team. So, I'm surprised. I thought it was a penalty, but I also think that play should have probably stopped for the second ball on the pitch, because that is the precedent that has been set this tournament.
Absolutely. Now, Wayne, question for you as a player. I mean, would you prefer to win in extra time if the game goes there, to just get that goal in extra time? Or would you prefer the kind of adrenaline rush that comes with winning on penalties, as we're going to touch on with Italy-Spain?
Oh, hell no. I ain't going to penalties. Penalties is ruthless. I feel sorry for whoever misses the penalty, because in a major tournament like that, it could be hard to bounce back from. So I feel for any team that goes out on penalties. Obviously, if we go to penalties, I want us to win, but I do feel for whoever misses that penalty, because it's horrible. I can, I've took one in a cup game for Chelsea, but on that level, I couldn't imagine what it's like, to be honest. I can imagine the goal just literally shrinks. And these are players
Do you know what, Wayne?
Can hit pinpoint passes. They can put it in the
this.
top corner. They can do this. You cannot.
You mentioned it. You mentioned it the other day. Your penalty, and I couldn't remember it. But I've got a WhatsApp group with a few Chelsea mates, and I said, "Can anyone remember?" We found it. We found it.
Brilliant!
It was.
Keep it to yourself. Yeah, that was it. Burnley. That's the one.
And we went out.
I was captain as well.
I think. Yeah, we went out.
Captain,
well done, Wayne. I think Adi Akinbiyi scored. For them.
He did. Yeah, he did.
And then it went. To penalties. It was amazing knowledge in the WhatsApp group. Yeah.
I'm just glad it wasn't a semi-final at the Euros or anything. It's horrible because everyone always talks about it. The whole country. You're always gonna be reminded of it the whole time. Like you just think how. Like you hear Gareth still apologising for it, and it's like, for me, I don't think about it like that anymore. I'm buzzing for him for how he's done at England because he feels like he's redeemed himself a little bit, but he shouldn't feel like that really.
Obviously, for him, it's taken 25 years to get to that point, right? So it must have been a heavy load off his shoulders.
Yeah.
Now, one team obviously did go through on penalties. The opponents in the final, Italy, that needing penalties to get past Spain. I mean, Wayne, were you actually a little bit relieved after you said that Spain would be the flops of the tournament?
Well, no, because my last bet was Spain to beat Italy on penalties. I thought it was coming in. But, I didn't, you would have said you'd fancy to play against Spain, but then they upped their game against Italy. I thought they played really well. And yeah, like I said, a little bit relieved because, like I said, it scared me a little bit if they got to the final and I called them a flop and they go win it. A bit like Schmeichel saying, "Has football ever been home?" Me saying Spain's are the flop and they end up beating us. So I'm a little bit relieved. I am a little bit relieved, I guess.
Rory, of course, Alvaro Morata again being a superstar. It looked like, and then missing the penalty. Talk to us about him again.
It just is what he is, isn't he? He's just a very average football player who doesn't have, he just doesn't have what it takes at all to be that level of player. And I think that occasionally we get things wrong, don't we, when we put our views out there? But also got to flag it when we get it right. And I think throughout this tournament, I was saying any team that is reliant upon Alvaro Morata to bring it home for them isn't going to be bringing anything home. And that was proved the case. The second that he stepped up, and it was his penalty that was going to be decisive, you just knew he was going to miss. He should never be in a position to take a penalty, certainly not such a decisive one. It's no surprise he scored that goal. That's the kind of goal he can score. That instinctive finish, one touch, bang, that's what he has in his locker. But he is the personification of average. He doesn't have the stomach for it either. When it comes down to, do you have the minerals? Who are you? The geezer's lacking. Very handsome, though. I'll give him that.
And for you, Wayne, I mean, what stood out about Italy's performance? Obviously going that one goal up and then equaliser by Morata. I mean, who stood out for you from Italy?
Chiesa is he's such a great player. Skillful, quick, direct. But it's them as a team. They've impressed me a lot. But then this game against Spain, I was like, you can get in between the lines with them. I know they've got this low block, and I thought they do defend very, very well as a team. But sometimes they're front free press, but they press on their own. Once you get past that, I feel like Spain got in the gaps a few times, and as much as they've got some really, really good players, whether they're getting tired in that, I think, and I was thinking at the time, we've definitely got areas where we can get at them and create them a lot of problems.
Rory, do you agree with that? Do you think that Italy showed some vulnerability, and maybe England could exploit some of those areas?
Do you know what, Joe? Absolutely. And I think that we seem to be falling into the old England, into the pitfalls of focusing on how good the opposition are rather than acknowledging quite how good we are. I think that Bonucci and Chiellini will be absolutely terrified of our front three. I think they will. The thought of Saka, Sterling, Harry Kane will be genuinely stopping them going to sleep. Running at them will be a joy for our more electrifying players. And I've seen enough vulnerability. Look, they have a very good midfield. I think ultimately England are going to have to get that selection right. How you combat Barella, Jorginho, and Verratti is something that we need to work out. But I have full faith that England will do it. But yes, I'm giving full respect to Italy. I'm aware of who they are. They are a juggernaut of a footballing nation, and we need to take them very seriously. But we're wicked, and we need to start focusing on quite how good we are.
Well, saying that, I just want to touch on Jorginho. Obviously, he did slot away that penalty so well. But I mean, how do you guys rate him as a player? Starting off with you, Wayne.
Look, he's obviously a good player, but he's never been one of my favourites. He ended the season well, but there's just something about him in this Italian team. He just makes them tick. Everything seems to go through him, and he just seems to organise them quite well as well. So yeah, he's just like their heartbeat a little bit, which is feel weird saying it because I've never rated him that highly at Chelsea. I'd always rather someone else was playing, but he definitely makes them tick.
Rory, do you share that view?
It's very difficult, isn't it, to say anything negative about Jorginho when you look at the last few months, playing for Chelsea in the Champions League final, winning the final, and that's going all the way with Italy and ultimately ending up a losing finalist at Euro 2020. It's an impressive time that they've had. But I agree with Wayne, really. I think he's a good bloke. I love the way he plays Wonderwall on the guitar. He seems like great fun. I respect the job that he can do, but I don't really want him anywhere near Chelsea's midfield. I think that he's brilliant at what he does, but I think for Premier League football, his skill set isn't best suited to it. And look, international football, absolutely. Maybe Serie A, absolutely. But the rough and tumble and the pace of the Premier League, I feel like there are better options out there, which is a very unpopular opinion among Chelsea fans, just to say I'm speaking purely for myself here.
Now, speaking of potential options, we did ask Rory and Wayne to put together their combined 11s ahead of this game. Now, Rory, with no surprises, I think from your commentary so far, going all England. Although it does raise an interesting point, right? Who would start between? You've obviously got Henderson in there. I mean, what puts Henderson in there ahead of Phillips for you?
I thought that Phillips. I've said something on Twitter actually that has caused quite a lot of consternation. I've got Leeds fans like furious at me for saying that I don't think Calvin Phillips should start. I think he's been brilliant this tournament. I think Phillips has been exemplary. I think the reason that England have got so far in the tournament is largely due to the form of Phillips. But I also think that he's really wasteful on the ball. People will combat me saying that I think Phillips shouldn't play by sending me charts saying that he ran 15 kilometres. I don't care. I don't care how far he runs. I don't think that's relevant to anything. Also, the way that he was giving the ball away consistently last night made me feel like he was a bit out of his depth. When we're going to be playing against the midfield of Italy that we've already covered, we need people to be on point. And Jordan Henderson is a proven winner. Jordan Henderson captained Liverpool to the European Cup. He captained Liverpool to the Premier League. He's played in a semi-final of a World Cup. He is the perfect person to bring in. And I'm not interested in, the other thing that people are saying to me, they say, oh, but it's really harsh, isn't it? Considering that Phillips is the one that got you there. I don't care. There's no sentiment here. There's no sentiment in a final. It's just about getting the job done. And I'm sure that Phillips would fully understand that if Henderson was right to get the job done, he would rather have a winner's medal around his neck. So that would be my reasoning for playing Henderson over Phillips.
And also going back to your starting 11, Rory, you went for Saka as well. Do you think he's shown enough to make a start in the final?
I do, actually. I think Sancho was brilliant against Ukraine, but it will be a very different game here. When you're playing a team like Ukraine, I think Saka's a great option. I think Sancho is a great option. I think Sancho is brilliant when teams are going to sit back, when you know that you're going to be on the front foot, when you know that you're going to have all of the ball, and ultimately you're relying on a bit of ingenuity to get you over the line. This won't be that. This is going to be a game of chess. It's going to be very tactical. we're going to have to work very hard in going in both directions. And I think Saka has proved that when that is the order of the day, he is the man for the job.
I think that's a fair shout. If you look at the bookies' odds for the game, it's actually incredibly even. I think it's one of the most even splits in the full-time result betting markets. You've got the implied probabilities looking at the odds. 34% chance of Italy winning, 33% of the draw, and 36% on England. So it's almost like flip a coin according to the bookies. All outcomes are pretty much on the table. But for Wayne, what kind of game do you actually see this one being? Think it's going to be that cagey affair, the tactical game, or is it going to be a bit more free-flowing?
I don't think it's going to be free-flowing. Look, I think we've started well. Every game we've played, we've started really well. So I hope we start well and we start on the front foot. I think we're going to need Sterling, and if Saka plays, I think you need them, because I think if they're playing that low block, you're going to have to get around them. So you need them two running at the fullbacks, who I think could cause absolute havoc for them. Everyone's going to be a bit cautious. It's a final, but I don't think you can be too cautious. I like to think Gareth's going to have them very calm and just go out and play football. I don't think you go out and necessarily say, right, we're going to sit back and just drop. I think we were still going to want to attack and get at them. But I don't think we're just going to go all gun-ho. I think we just carry on as we've been playing. I don't think nothing really needs to change unless he wants to change the formation a little bit and, change one or two players. But I don't think we really need to change the way we go about anything. I think he just got to make a decision and stick with what he chooses, which is what he's done all tournament, really. But we've been solid. So I don't think we really need to worry about... Obviously, got to worry about them, but not worry too much. They're going to be worrying. I think they should be worrying more about us than we are about them, 100%, the way we've been playing.
Yeah, and should England get off to the worst start, Italy go ahead, say through an early goal, Rory, would you still be confident that England can turn things around?
Yes, I would. I think that it's imperative that doesn't happen, but there's no reason why we can't break down this Italian side. That troubles me. Going a goal down against the side is really worrying, though, because of the resilience and resolute nature and experience of Bonucci, Chiellini. So we have to be careful about that. I anticipate a defence-first approach. I think Wayne's right where he says, it's going to be a cagey affair. But yeah, I think our key objective is not to fall a goal behind. But when you have the attacking talent that we have in this squad, there is no reason why falling a goal behind doesn't mean that we come back.
And Wayne, just to bring up your experience of playing in these big games, on the big stage, I mean, you say Gareth is going to try and calm everyone down, but players surely get a little bit overexcited, right? And potential for yellow cards, missed tackles, that kind of thing. Is that something that you can see happening?
I thought the lads dealt with going a goal down really well. And you could see him on the touchline, Gareth. He just everyone calm. And I think it was great. Look, there's people screaming for subs before we get that goal at half time. We're going to have to change it, get Grealish on. But you could tell the lads were calm. They weren't... A few things didn't go away for a spell, but they did keep calm and they kept at it and we got the goal. That is the most important thing, is... keeping calm. And it will, if we did go a goal down, it will be very hard to break them down because they are so good. They move well as a team. The back four in the midfield, they move. The distances they keep are really good. But when you've got the likes of Sterling and Saka running at you, it changes that. Once they've beat a player, you open them up. And you could see Spain, they got in between the lines against Italy and they created them problems. And I think we're 100 times better than Spain. Well, 10 times. 100 might be a bit much. But we can create them a lot of problems. We could create them so many problems.
And Rory, for you, I mean, for the future of England, do you think that the final is a must-win game if we're going to go on and dominate?
No, I actually don't. I think that this team has behaved and performed admirably. And irrespective of what happens against Italy, I think that we can safely say that football has come home. I think football coming home, it's not simply winning a tournament. I think the way that we feel about the team, the pride that they've played with, the moments that they've given us. Football has come home already, irrespective of winning it. And when you think about this team, the youthful nature of this team, the World Cup is what, 14 months away? That means, 14, 15 months' time, this team, like, what kind of a player is Jack Grealish going to be in 15 months, having spent a season under Pep Guardiola? What kind of player is Saka going to be? What kind of player is Jude Bellingham going to be? There are going to be, like, even Harry Kane, who is one of the older, more senior statesmen of this team. He's still going to be very much in his prime going into that World Cup. So this England team need a tournament, but I wouldn't put the pressure on them saying that they need this tournament.
And Wayne, do you agree with that? I mean, look, the future's bright either way, right?
Oh, it's massive. You know, you look at Phil Foden and it's like, was this tournament maybe a little bit too early for him? And I still think he's such a great player. I loved him. I do love him still. I just think another season playing football for Man City, he'll be even better. He'd be in the team again. There's so much. They're so young. It's such an exciting team. Don't get me wrong. I think whether they win or lose, I know everyone's going to be so proud of them. Well, we are proud of them anyway. They've created such a buzz. It's going to be devastating as fans if we didn't win it, and it's going to be devastating for them as well. It's going to be hard to go that far and lose, but whatever happens, they've got to hold their heads up. They've been fantastic.
All right, so let's move on to our bets for the final. We're going to bring up some of our best bets and also look back at our previous bets and bold predictions from last week. So just to bring up our best bets from the last round of games, obviously not great. We didn't get any winners from our best bet. So lads, hopefully we get a better turnout in the final. I think that maybe we were just a little bit more ambitious with some of our selections, hopeful more than anything. But I want to bring up our best bets for the final. So yeah, Wayne is going for England to win in 90 minutes. Just to be clear, that is within 90 minutes. Rory backing us to keep a clean sheet as well as get the victory. And I'm backing England to lift the trophy. So that obviously includes the possibility of extra time and penalties there. Rory, just to touch on your selection there, England to win to 0. You talk about the defence, how solid it's been, and can you explain why you're going for that outcome?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that is the stalwart of our team, isn't it? We are a team that is so miserly at the back. We're a team that do not give away chances, let alone goals. And that is how we will beat this Italian team. It's going to be a cagey affair. It's going to be tense. I think there could only be one goal in it. And I think that we are very likely to win this game to 0 because our whole setup, the way that we play the game, what history has taught us up until this point in the tournament. You've got to remember as well, Jordan Pickford got the Golden Gloves 2 games before the end of the tournament. It's very impressive. England do not concede goals. And with that in mind, I think our entire approach, the way that the boys will be training today, the way that Gareth Southgate will be trying to instill confidence in them, will be keep this as tight as possible.
Now we also have a bet builder, so featured from Bet365, where you can combine different markets. So let's just pull that up for us now. So I'm going for England to score in the first half. I think that given the start we've made in a lot of games, I think we are going to go for the jugular kind of straight away. Also, we're going to throw in that England win to 0. And Wayne, you're going for Chiellini to be booked. We just talk about him. Do you think, he's going to be up against the likes of Sterling and Kane? He's going to be too much of a handful for him, right?
I think it's going to be a hard game for their defence. I think we're going to get at them, and it's going to be difficult. And in finals, you put everything in you can. They're going to have to. Well, they're going to have to be tight. They're going to have to make challenges, and it's going to. You could probably pick any one of the back four to get booked. To be honest, I just think that it's going to be a very tough night for them with us getting at them, and we are going to have. I think if we start off as quick as we can, I think it could be an early booking as well. I think it's going to be very tough for them. The age that they're at as well. They are very clever. They are very intelligent, but it's going to be a very tough game for them.
And Rory, you share that view, right? You think there's going to be a lot of cards in the game, potentially over 4.5?
Yes, because I think that this is now all that matters. There is nothing else to worry about. You don't need to worry about being booked. You don't need to worry about being sent off. You must do everything you can. Put your neck on the line, put your body on the line, put somebody else's body on the line if you have to. You have to do everything you can to win this game. And therefore, I think it's one of those situations where desperation can lead to desperate decisions and incorrect decisions, and sometimes even correct ones. There will be moments in this game where it's potentially worth. Do you remember Suarez against Ghana? It was worth it.
Yeah.
This is an occasion where it's worth it. Whatever it is, it's worth it. The prize here is worth the penalty, and I think therefore not a penalty, but the penalty.
And also touching on our bold predictions from the semi-finals, you guys actually were almost spot on. Wayne going for Spain to win on penalties. But yeah, Rory, you had it nailed on that Italy and Spain would go to penalties. I did think that Italy could win comfortably, but never mind. But on to our bold predictions for the final. I think we're all backing one man to star for England. So yeah, Wayne going for Harry Kane to score 2 or more. Myself going for Harry Kane to score in the opening 20 minutes. I think they will make a similar quick start as well. So I feel like Kane will get on the score sheet. And Rory going for Harry Kane to score and secure the golden boot, available at 6-1 with Sky Bet. On that, by the way, if he does score obviously 2, like Wayne predicts, then he will get the golden boot outright. But if he scores and makes an assist, then he can then get the golden boot as well. But that's it, I think, for our time with Wayne. So absolute pleasure to have you on board once again. We will see you next time on the big stage.
Thanks, guys. It's coming home.
Cheers, Wayne. Yes.
And now to our next section on the show, where we're going to have Rory get a little bit of a topic off his chest in Rory's Rant. So Rory, in previous shows, you've talked about Southgate, how we should get behind him. But I mean, how should the nation react if England go all the way and win Euro 2020?
Well, I think what has to happen is I think it's higher than what the fans could do. I think the fans have behaved admirably and beautifully throughout this tournament. The support that's been given to the team in Wembley Stadium and across the country has been exemplary. What I think we deserve from the upper echelons of the country, people who make decisions, I think we deserve a bank holiday, Joe. I think that Monday needs to be a bank holiday where we bask in the glory of England making history, England achieving something that hasn't been done for the best part of a century. We need a bank holiday on the Monday. I think that it's well deserved. I think it should happen. I also feel like an unofficial bank holiday will happen anyway. Realistically, if I'm totally honest with you, I'm not going to do any work between now and the game, and then the game for probably a week anyway. I mean, it's going to be unofficial, isn't it? People are going to somehow celebrate on Monday, certainly Sunday night into Monday. So I feel like we should be rewarded for our loyalty, our dedication, and the team will have earned the nation a well-deserved bank holiday. We should start a campaign. Let's get a bank holiday in England if it does come home on Sunday night.
When it comes home, right?
Yes, absolutely. When.
Well, yeah, Rory, absolute pleasure to have you on the show once again. We'll speak to you next time, where we're going to wrap up our predictions for Euro 2020. But also we're going to move on now to our community section, where we're going to look at how the tipsters are getting on bettingexpert.com. So throughout Euro 2020, our tipsters on Betting Expert have been posting their predictions, and we've been ranking them based on the profit they would have won. And basically the guys at the top of this leaderboard will win cash prizes. So let's just bring that up now. Our tipster standings. The aptly named Del Piero 28 is taken over on the leaderboard. He's at the top now with by 1 unit of profit. So be sure to check out his tips, as well as Luda Kvota as well, to see who takes home the final cash prize of €2,000. But for now, that's it for this edition of The Big Stage. I hope you enjoyed it. Be sure to check out more information and more tips on bettingexpert.com. And if you do place a bet, as always, we do ask you please gamble responsibly.